for this 7th edition of the quarterly series. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Yemi. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from.
That's the question. Why is it different? Huh?
Sorry, good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Why is it
sorry, there's a background. Thank you.
Hi, please.
Sorry, can
You're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I've been going on. I'm really sorry. I'll start again. Good morning, good afternoon, where depending on what part of the world you are in. And thank you so much for dialing into today's 7th edition of our quarterly leadership series. My name is Ibukun Oyedeji, the president of CFA Society Nigeria, and I'm beyond thrilled to have you all on this call today as we start our 7th edition. And it's really inspiring to see that our program, the Quarterly Leadership Series, has continued to grow in terms of engaging the future leaders of Nigeria in promoting and inspiring people in the spirit of leadership excellence. I also want to thank you for your unwavering support and commitment to our mission of advancing investment professionals and the knowledge of this industry and practice as you engage in these discussions with our panel, with our speakers. It will be interesting to know what parts of the world you're calling in from or dialing in from. So in the chat room, I think people are monitoring. Just drop in there to let us know where you are and just how excited you are to join us today. Our quarterly leadership series, we believe that excellent leadership is pivotal to any organization's enduring success. And that's why we've sought to nurture the future leaders into being agile leaders and learning from invaluable lessons and experiences and wealth of knowledge and leadership skills and experience of people we consider prominent Nigerian figures or global figures in the finance industry. In the previous editions, we've actually been honored to host a few of these people that have left indelible marks in the society in which they've operated. The first edition was led by Fola Adiola, OFR, the founder of Guarantee Trust Bank. We've also had His Highness Khalifa Mahamadou Sanusi. We've also the former central bank governor and emir of Kano. We've hosted Kala Harris, Vice Chairman Morgan Stanley, Akin Daudu, City CEO for Sub-Saharan Africa, Mr. Jim Ovia, the founder and chairman of Zenith, and most recently, Mr. Ade Ayeyemi, the former group CEO of EcoBank Transnational Institution. For this 7th edition, we have the big privilege, and I'm really excited about welcoming on board Mr. Adedotun Sulaiman, MFR, as our special guest speaker. Mr. Sulaiman is a man of unparalleled wisdom and achievements, and we are eager to tap into this wealth of experience as we engage him today. He is currently the board chair of Parthian Partners and Cadbury Nigeria PLC. He pioneered and made career in management and strategic consulting in Nigeria, putting in 30 years in the firms, on various firms like Arthur Andersen and Co., Andersen Consulting and Accenture, which is now the KPMG that we know. The breadth and depth of his professional experience and expertise were established through numerous transformation engagements spanning through strategic planning, organization strategy, human resources, leadership development, amongst others. And most of this was within the finance industry, financial services industry, oil and gas, manufacturing and services sectors. Mr. Sulaiman graduated from University of Lagos in 1975 with a first-class honors in business administration and qualified as a chartered accountant in 1981. He retired as a country managing director and chairman of Accenture Nigeria in 2010 and has worked actively with angel investors and at early stages of venture capitalists and private equity investment as either as a coach, a mentor, advisor, hand-holding a lot of these young professionals or entrepreneurs to become successful in their career. He's a strong advocate of good corporate governance, and as we speak today, we'll see that translate in his conversation with us. Mr. Sulaiman has sat on various boards, either in profit-making organizations or not-for-profit organizations, some of which are ABSA Nigeria, which is formerly Barclays Nigeria, Secure ID Limited, InterSwitch, Cadbury Nigeria, Cornerstone Insurance, Sundry Foods, Helios Stars, Corona School Trust, Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Mason, as we all know it as Musical Society of Nigeria, and a few other bodies. He's also chaired some of these committees that we speak about. One of them is the latest one being the chairman of the FRCN, the Financial Reporting Council, which he was from 2017 to 2021. On behalf of the board of governors of members of the CFA Society Nigeria, I'd like to welcome you, sir. And it's a great honor for me to actually have you on board. This is one session I'm really excited to hear so much from. And I'm excited because we're taking it from being the financial industry players like the bankers to actually going to the big four and the consulting. And your wealth of knowledge is something I really look forward to engaging as we listen to you today. So welcome on board, sir. But also I think I need to introduce also the moderators that are gonna lead this session today. And these are my colleagues as CFA charter holders. I have here Odiri Ogini, CFA, who is the Managing Director, CEO of UBA Asset Management. She's a charter holder and currently the chairperson of our employer relations and has over 12 years experience in various parts of portfolio management, financial analysis, reporting, and even finance and tax. Also with Odiri, I have Osei Ano, who is the head of financial reporting and with Standard Chartered Bank. He's also a charter holder and is a volunteer in our advocacy committee. He's worked in various financial institutions, including PwC, Union Bank, and UBA. Thank you, Odiri and Osei, for joining and taking this session. I'll now hand over to them as we begin the session. Thank you, everyone.
We are professionals. We are impact-driven. We are CFA Society Nigeria, a member society of the CFA Institute Global Network of Societies. Our mission is to promote the highest standard of practice in the Nigerian financial services industry and provide a vibrant community for our members. The CFA Charter signals the holders' commitment to professional excellence. As thought leaders, we collaborate with stakeholders to ensure adherence to ethical standards, better education for professionals, and to build market integrity. We are the leading voice for advocacy in the finance and investment industry in Nigeria. To partner with us or become our member, visit us at cfasocietynг.org for more details. CFA Society Nigeria, making finance a force for good.
Thank you very much, Ibukun, for the warm welcome. And good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. It's good to have you join us today. My co-moderator, Sai, and I will start with the questions that we have prepared, and then we'll move on to the questions from the audience. Please, everyone, don't hesitate to share your questions in the chat box. We have somebody monitoring the questions that you have dropped. So let's get started. I'm sure we don't want to keep everyone waiting. So, sir, we've heard Ibukun read out your very accomplished profile. I'm sure everyone is eager to meet the man behind this very impressive achievement. So my first question would be to get to know you much better. So if you could please describe yourself using 3 adjectives, what would those adjectives be? And we also want to learn the backstory behind why you have chosen to use those adjectives to describe yourself.
Adjectives. Well, anyway, let me start by saying thank you very much for inviting me. I think it's indeed an honor to be here and to be selected. Looking at the people that came before me, like I'm asking myself, why am I here? They're all bankers and money people and all that. But anyway, thank you. Thank you for selecting me. Talking about myself, one thing I'm not good at is talking about myself. That's the honest truth. I'm one person who likes my work and my results speak for me rather than me speaking about myself. So if you put me on the spot by saying, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm just a regular person, a regular guy, nothing special about me. I feel I'm a mission-driven person. Then there's an adjective enough, mission-driven. I feel blessed. I feel I'm blessed with endowment that is not common. Not everybody has it. God doesn't distribute it equally. And by the same token, I also feel obliged that those endowments are to be put to the use for society, for better society and to lift others. So that's basically my self-definition, regular, just normal person who has spirit endowment and who is determined and who has a mission to use his endowment and his gifts and so on to lift others up. And that's basically what my life has been all about.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. But the truth is there's really nothing regular about you. But I will pick one of the adjectives you used to describe yourself, which is the fact that you're endowed. We went through your profile on LinkedIn, and one of the words you used to describe yourself is that you're a spotter and one who is able to identify talents, particularly for executive positions, and helping to groom young professionals. So drawing from your extensive experience as a board executive and a management consultant, could you share some of the criteria you look out for when you're evaluating a business leader? And also some of the attributes you see in a particular individual that will make you say, oh, this person is a business leader material, or this person is a high-flying executive material?
Okay, so a bit of background. Like you said in my profile, my career in consulting. I started in the country in 1978 by an American gentleman called Dick Kramer. And at the time I joined, I knew nothing about accountancy. I actually applied to join as a management consultant. Anyway, long story short is that we joined the firm, and Dick brought several innovations to the market. The first, of course, was that he recruited the best and the brightest. That was the first time in Nigeria where if you went top of your class, we didn't hire you. So the result was that accounting was an assemblage of very, very bright people. And therefore, I had the privilege over a period of 28 years of working with very, very smart people who were, if you think you were smart, we would more than meet a match in the process. And one thing we did very well, led by Dick taught us, and then, of course, was spotting good people and giving them an environment to bloom, to grow, to develop, and become leaders. And I think it's something Adedotun did very well over the years. If you look at those who have been through that firm and what they've gone on to become, inside and outside the firm, you so that we've done, when I say we now, we've done more than our fair share of grooming leadership for Nigeria, for this country, particularly in the finance or the management together and so on. So that's something we get good at. taking people from when they are young, training them, giving them challenging environment, giving them the assignments, giving them the nurturing and so on, so they can become the best that they can be. So when I retired, I just said, what would I do? I said, look, I would like to continue to do that, but under a different format. The format being, to work with entrepreneurs, particularly startups and so on, and help them, be the best that they can be. And what do we do? Basically, make myself available to them, give them access to my network, advice, and all that on an on-demand basis. So I just make myself available. Now, talking about
that's the question I'm asking. So I don't want us to discuss the problem. I want to say the progress we've made since that time.
Yeah. Okay. We were asking, how do I determine who will succeed and who won't succeed? In mathematics in those days, we use a simple formula, which Dick invented or whatever. We call it BALI, B-A-L-I. We're looking for people with brains. We've got to be brainy, to be enough to understand and so on. We're looking for people with ambition. Has so ambition. That's people who desire growth, want to make the best of their endowments, and are willing to give it whatever it takes. The hard work, the long hours, the self-denial, and so on. Also, we're looking for leadership, people with leadership attributes. I think our fundamental belief was that what the world needed more than anything else was leadership. And therefore, we're looking for leadership materials and so on. And of course, the I was integrity. That was absolutely important. People who say what they mean what they say, stand by the truth, not afraid to say it as it is, and so on. Given the nature of what we do in consulting, you have to be able to tell your clients who are paying your fees some bitter truths and so on. So those are the things, and that's basically what I look for. I'm looking for young people who demonstrate that ambition, that can-do spirit, that problem-solving, attitude. So instead of complaining about Nigeria is not working and so on, they are doing their bit to solve the problem. Those are the kind of people I'm looking for. I'm also looking for people with, like I said, that leadership quality, which is exemplified by what you've done before, how you relate to people, whether you're a we person or an I person, team players, and people who treat people with respect. But most importantly, which is something that we don't, I don't, compromise on, is integrity. I always tell everybody I work with that we've got to do it straight. Nigeria doesn't have a good reputation for integrity and so on, but there are still a few people and a few organizations and so on that do it right, and we're raised to do it right. And so those are the things I look for. I'm looking for people with integrity, who don't pay bribes, who pay their taxes, who do things right, and stand for what's right, and stand for to defend what's right, and so on. Yeah, I would take what I call the straight and narrow road, and take a long-term view rather than want to do it, get rich quick. And those are the kind of people I'm looking for people who build, who want to create institutions rather than make money. So it's a case of, the technology, whether you want to be or whether you want to have.
Oh.
So for me, it's a case of you rather be rather than have. The have can come later. So those are my guiding philosophy, if you like.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, I'll take the next question. Sir, I looked at your CV and I'm in awe how one person achieved all this in one lifetime. And you tell us that you are regular. And I'm now wondering, if this is a regular achievement, I'm in trouble. So, but the question I really want to ask is, there's always we have a shortage. There's always stories on the internet and everywhere of the success story, the pleasant part of the ride, and there's a shortage of information on the difficult part of the journey, the failures. So, I want to know, sir, in your illustrious career, have there been failures, periods of stagnancy, self-doubt? And if they were, how did you overcome them? You can just give us one story. We're in Africa, we like storytelling. Can you just give us one example of the difficult period in your life and how you overcame it, sir?
I used the word blessed when I was describing myself. Obviously, everybody's had their share of failures and so on, but and it's never been a straight road. It's never smooth. It's not a smooth ride. I mean, a lot of slugging, a lot of working hard, and so on. And not everything works out the first time the way you want it, and so on. So there have been several failures and several things that haven't worked out, but just carry on. I know you learn from your failures and so on. But if you look at the field, that I'm in now, which is new business, venture capital, and so on, there are far more failures than have been successes. I've put money in 20, 25 enterprises. Most of them have failed. Now, if I go back to my career, that's one thing. Were there failures? There were failures. Failures not meeting your budget. Failures not getting the growth you want, and so on. I look back, for example, I would say the fact that, we didn't grow to become 100, 200, 300 in my time. We could argue that it's failure, but then you ask yourself. I mean, the consolation I always look at when I ruminate over the fact that I wasn't able to leave the firm in the hundreds by the time I retired, but that there was nobody did a better job. There was no bigger firm, at least in our field at that time. But so things haven't really gone exactly the way we want. I mean, I would have liked to have retired as a managing partner of a firm that was in the hundreds and maybe thousands or so. Because when I compared Nigeria to South Africa, which was the other country where we had an office, South Africa had over 1,000 people. And we struggled, United States Consulting, to keep 156, under 200 people busy. Now, I would take that as failure on my part, even though I can explain it away. You can always explain failure, but failure is failure anyway. So the point of the matter is, therefore, is that it has been smooth sailing. You don't always achieve what you want, which to me is the definition of failure. You set a goal, you fall short of that goal. Of course, there are many goals within hit, budget, revenue, targets, the whole works. So there'll be failure, but you don't let failure stop you. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Thank you very much. I definitely feel better knowing that you have failed as well, because life is hard.
I've had my pressure.
Because from our side, we'll just look at a CV like yours and like, how can I get there? Has this person ever failed before? But I mean, I'm starting to feel more like a regular human being now. But sir, I want to know, are there any life philosophies you live by? Like, so my favorite quote is, "The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today," which is by Frank D. Roosevelt, which basically says that we will not be defined by our abilities of tomorrow, but our abilities to grow and learn. In today's world, sir, we had this classic quotes like I just mentioned back in the day. But today, now you go to YouTube, they'll tell you sleep for 4 hours if you want to be successful. Read 40 books a month to be a successful entrepreneur. I want to know, in the world where there's so much information, some of it conflicting and some of it's narrow, what are your life hacks? Which ones can we copy from you?
Well, for me, the first thing is self-knowledge. You got to know yourself. You got to know who you are. And not many people know who they are. I mean, not necessarily in the sense of describe yourself like you challenged me at the beginning, but at least you need to know who you are and what you are here for. You got to know your strengths and your weaknesses and how you can deploy your endowment for the service of society, the society in which you find yourself. So therefore, my philosophy basically is that we are here for a purpose. Everybody is here for a purpose. Is to find your purpose and stick to it and be the best that you can be doing it. Not only that, and you do it for over a long time. Over a long time. A lifetime is not, a lifetime is, if God gives you good health, 70 years and more. So you've got to take a long-term view of everything, which is what most people don't do. You've got to take a long-term view of everything. And like my boss used to say, in fact, one thing you're going to hear me say is that as my boss says and so on, I learned a lot, from Mr. Kramer. In fact, I will even go as far as to say that a lot of who I am today is having the privilege and the good fortune of working with him and so on. So life is a marathon, not a 100 meters dash, which means it's a long term, to get anything done. And if it is too good, it's probably not true. If it's too easy, you're missing something. So in a long term game, and therefore the challenge is to have a vision and a mission, be focused on that, be laser focused on that, and know that it's going to take a long time. And in that period is a period of continuous growth, learning, because you're operating this, even though your mission is fixed, the environment in which you are going to do it is ever changing. It's dynamic. Your goal is fixed, but how you're going to get there can't be fixed because you're operating in a very dynamic environment. And therefore, just constant striving, changing, learning, unlearning, growing, for me, are the keys to long-term success.
Thank you very much. That's definitely very reassuring because, these days that we have distractions of things like Jackpot, dollar is going to 1K, petrol, so hearing you talk about this now, it even gives me more energy to focus on my goal. Yeah. Okay, at this point, I'll hand over to my colleague again, Odiri, for the next two questions.
All right, thank you, Osei, and thank you so much, sir, for sharing your failure story. I'm sure every one of us want to fail in that same manner, because the way we've idealized failure, it looks like something that, is really bad. So I want us to still stay on that failure story, but in this case, we are giving you the opportunity to redo your career all over again. Yes, you spent more than Sorry about that. I noticed I was muted. Thank you very much for sharing your failure story. Now I want to give you the opportunity to redo your career all over again. I know you spent more than 30 years, so it would be good for you to share if you had the opportunity to start all over again and to do something differently. What will you do differently in your career?
I thought about that. What would I do differently? I'm not sure. That's the honest truth. And the other thing, you know about life, and that I have, even though I talk about being mission driven and other kind of things, that you have to also realize that we don't hold all the aces. We don't have all the answers, and therefore I think there's some divine elements to the way life goes and so on. A lot of the actions we take, we look back and say, oh, how did I do that? How did I make those choices and so on? Not all of that is empowered. Is there anything I would do again? I don't think so. My life has been, for example, I set out, to be a banker, by the way. I would have been talking to a banker. Yeah, I set out to be a banker. I studied business administration, and I want to make a career in banking, not commercial banking at that time. It was merchant banking as was then known. And there were only 2 or 3 merchant banks in the country at that time. I applied to all 3 of them, despite my results. I wasn't taken. So talking about failure, I wasn't taken, and I wasn't taken partly because in my naivety as a young person, I said I want to work for 2 years, and at the end of 2 years, I want to go and do an MBA, and I may come back, I may not come back. I blotted that out, and nobody wanted to hear that story. So I found myself in the Ministry of External Affairs, which, was the last thing on my mind. And I ended up, in the Ministry of External Affairs. Before you say Jack Robinson, I was posted to the Nigerian embassy in Washington, D.C. It's like a degree in business administration. What are you doing as a diplomat and so on? I'm anything but diplomatic. Anyway, long story short, I went there, did about 18 months and came back and resigned. Resigned to go and do an MBA. I had a scholarship up to PhD level, federal government. I had admission. I had my form I-20, ready to go to the American embassy to get a visa. And then I met Dick Kramer, who advertised, he was starting a new firm in Nigeria. I wrote out this advert. I read the advert. It sounded like he was looking for me. So I applied. Of course, I didn't know what I was applying for. I did apply anyway. And so in December of 1978, I had an offer from Dick Kramer. I had from I-20 in my hands with a scholarship to study business administration at Columbia up to PhD, all paid for. I had an offer letter from Dick Kramer to join a firm that I knew absolutely nothing about. So can you imagine a young person today who has that the choice, of course, will be obvious. Anyway, long story short, I chose to stay in Nigeria.
That's a difficult one.
I chose to stay in Nigeria. So I started my career with Adedotun started, and I gave up my MBA and so on. Now, that wasn't what I planned, but that's the way it happened. The other thing that happened was that in the course of my career, a lot of people came and went through the firm because the firm was a very good training ground for young people. Not everyone necessarily wanted to make a career, grow to become a partner and all that kind of stuff, And we actually did our planning in authority, what we call planned turnover at 27%, which means we knew we were going to lose a quarter of our staff every year. And we did lose quite a few. I mean, not always 27%. In some years, it's less than 27%. In some years, more than 27%. So people came and went and so on. And here was I stuck it out. So I asked myself, why did you stay? I don't know why I stayed, but I stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And the significant thing about it was that in my 28, 30 years in the firm, nobody made me an offer. So I wasn't even tempted. I don't know why, maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I was too focused. Maybe so I was enjoying what I was doing. But so the thing about it is that effort is that a lot of these things are not completely in your hands.
Yeah.
Not completely in your hands. I mean, so what would I do differently? I don't know. In that something, maybe if I did my PhD and maybe I would be a professor someday, somewhere, maybe I would have returned to Nigeria, maybe I would have become an American, who knows? I mean, but so we don't have full control, but that's my own story.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. And I think that that story resonates with a lot of people. Most times when we have multiple options, it's always very difficult to choose. We tend to follow the path that is more attractive. But at the end of the day, it may not necessarily give us the real value that we are looking at. Look at how your career turned out, irrespective of the challenges and irrespective of the options or, in quotes, not so many offers at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, it all turned out well for you. And we are grateful to God that, you are here to share this experience with us. You talked about your boss earlier. I know it was in passing, but I think we want to do more on, the people who have actually influenced your life and your career, in the last 30 more years. So can you share with us a story about, one or two people who either acted as mentors or as sponsors for you in your career journey? And I know that the young ones amongst us want to know, is it really advisable that we seek out a mentor or a sponsor in the course of our career journey? Is it really important? Can't we go this journey on our own stride? After all, if I'm hardworking, if I do my job very well, I should be able to get to the top. Do I need to seek out a mentor or a sponsor to help me through that journey. So share with us your experience with the people who have actually influenced your career.
I would say majorly the person has influenced my career and made me who I am today is Mr. Dick Kramer of blessed memory. He passed on last year. And I worked with him from 1978 until I took over from him as managing partner in 1993. And then continued to work together until he left this country at the age 85, you know. So, I mean, he's the overarching influence in my life, at least my personal life and so on. And a few things I learned from Dick Kramer. One of them, of course, is focus. Be focused. You know, I talked about being mission-driven and so on. And of course, the other one is hard work. So what I found him is Dick Kramer is somebody who is extremely bright, Harvard MBA, everything, you know, worked extremely hard, did his own work. He was laser focused on what he was doing and so on. And therefore, the result is that if you happen to combine those three attributes, you know, and you give it the time that it takes, the odds that you succeed is very high. Work very hard, focus on your job, and do it for long enough. Never over an overnight success. So there are so many tidbits about life, therefore, that one picked up from one's boss. I would say I was lucky to have Mr. Kramer as my boss. In fact, the only person, I would say the only boss I actually ever had. Now, of course, there are other influences, not directly, but people that you watch from a distance that you admire. One of such people for me is Dr. Kolade. You've heard of Dr. Christopher Kolade, you know, and that's somebody who's had careers in 3 or 4 fields, and he rose to the top in all 4. And the other person that I admired very much was the late Mr. Akintola Williams, you know, who lived a very long life, and he lived a life of relevance right through to the very end. And there are not very many people, you know, like that. Yeah. So those are people that kind of inspire me. There are a few people out there that kind of inspire me and all that. But going back to the question of mentor and bosses and so on, I think it's very, very important that you have a mentor. So as a young person going up, you don't know anything. You have to start from base that you don't know anything. You have the brains, you have everything, but you know absolutely nothing. And therefore, when you have somebody in your life, either in the workplace or outside the workplace, who takes an interest in your growth and development, it's always reassuring to have that go-to person to bounce things off. Even if the decision is ultimately yours, but it's always good to have that person that you respect, that knows more than you, you know, particularly in the field in which, you know, you're looking to make a life, and someone who's been there before, who has an interest in you. So it's all very important. You know, the sad thing about there are not very many people who are prepared to do that. And because the person's got to have an interest, it's got to take time, and all that, you've got to develop a relationship. And it's a long-term commitment, you know, to seeing you become the best that you can be. So a mentor for that purpose is very important. And what that means also is that if you have the benefit of working with such a person, then you have an obligation to mentor other people as well. Because life is a circle. You know, just as somebody's ahead of you, people are behind you. So you have a responsibility, if you've had the chance of working with a great leader, to also be a great leader to younger people and help them. And so when I talked about myself being a developer of people and so on, it's coming from this sense of obligation, that I was lucky to encounter this gentleman. I learned a lot from him. He's made me what I am today. Therefore, I have an obligation to help others as well. So that's what drives me.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing. I will just emphasize some of the points you raised, which I think is very interesting. The need for us to be hardworking and focused, be mission-driven. You talked about the need for us to have a mentor. It's really important for us to have a mentor. someone who takes an interest in you and is willing to work with you, through your career journey. The truth is we can't do it alone, even if we have the brains and we are ambitious. And then you talked about investing in the mentorship relationship. I think a lot of the time we see a mentor, someone we take from, but there's also something that we can do, to also contribute to the life of the mentor. So invest in the relationship is key. And then lastly, you talked about paying it forward. Sense of obligation, I think is something personally I'm going to take out. When you are so important for, for what is where you also do that for and do also help your generation. So thanks so much, site. I think we'll carry on.
No, there's a point I made which you didn't catch in your wrap up or your summary, which for me is very important for the audience, and that's this time orientation.
All right, let's say
life is like I said, is a marathon, and today's young people want to do it in a hurry.
Okay.
Again, like my boss would say, it takes 9 months to make a baby. You can't do it faster. So there are just certain things that require time. And therefore, you've got to give it a time. You've got to allow the seasoning to happen. So this rush to want to be a millionaire at 30, want to retire at 40, and so on, I don't know where it's going. I mean, like I said, it took me from 1978, to 1993 before I became managing partner, and the journey lasted over 30 years. I see people who graduated 5 years ago who are saying, "Oh, I want to be managing director. I want to be this." It's like, no, it doesn't happen that way. You just got to take your time. You got to pay your dues. You got to allow time to happen. No matter how bright you are, there are some things time just has to take care of. That seasoning is very, very important. So I think today's young people might please slow down, take your time, don't rush too fast. Because, again, I always say my boss, Dick used to tell us that life is like a ladder, and if you are climbing the ladder, if you skip some rungs in the ladder, you can't come down to come and climb it again. So let's talk about going through every rung in the ladder.
Thank you so much for that. Our generation is the instant noodles generation.
Yeah.
Fast food generation. We want everything now.
Yeah.
So we've also brought that into the way we make decisions and into our career. So thank you so much for reminding us of that. We need to have a long-term perspective in our career and also in our life generally. Things don't have to, be gotten now. We cannot skip the process. We cannot skip the process. Thank you so much for that. Osei, are you ready?
Yes, I'm absolutely ready. The last comment actually resonates with me 100%. A fellow Anderson like you, sir, always used to tell me, be careful not to get promoted to your level of incompetence.
Yeah.
Which is, because in today's world, they tell us, join PwC for 3 years, go to banking, and change job every year. And then one day you find yourself in your level of incompetence.
Exactly.
Okay, sir. The question I really want to ask, in these days, there's a focus on mental wellness and work-life balance. So in your journey, have you always been able to balance, the requirements of the work, the requirements of family and the social life? Is this something we should be prepared for? Is that the sacrifice we should be prepared for? And is it a positive sacrifice for us? How do we balance it?
Well, you've got to balance, but achieving that balance is your responsibility. Nobody is going to hand it to you. And balance is a function of determining what's important. What's important in your life? What kind of life outcomes do you want? And therefore, how do you allocate your time and your resources to it? Again, simple as it seems, Dick would say there are only 24 hours in a day. You can't have a 25th hour, no matter how, you can't stretch it. Only 24 hours in a day. And therefore, it's a case of how do you want to spend your 24 hours? There's sleep time, which, and then there's waking time. So some you can sacrifice one for the other, but clearly you need balance. Now, in our case, we're challenged to find a balance in our lives. And I would say we did to some extent. I would say the outcome reflects whether you were successful in balancing or not successful in balancing and so on. We worked very hard. We worked in a career where you had to account for every minute. We filled time reports every day. You have to account for 8 hours a day. And if you do more than 8 hours, credit as overtime. So I spent 32 years filling time reports. So my idea of time and the value of time is so sharp and so graphic, because that's also the basis for your revenue model. We charge people per hour. So we know the value of every hour and all that kind of. We've got to create value for every hour. That was the training we got. And you got to allocate this time to everything. So there's work time, there's growth, sharpness is the soul time, there's family time, if you're that way inclined and so on. Now, family doesn't necessarily mean your immediate family. It means the larger society. So there was, of course, we achieved to varying degrees. Some people worked more time spending work at the expense of other aspects. What kind of balance did I achieve? Only that I'll let my children tell me whether I was I was balanced. But I did have 4 children, went to school. I was a very, very involved father. As part of my very busy schedule, I was very, very involved father. And there was nothing in my children's growth and development I wasn't a part of, sort of being there for them and all that kind of stuff. So you got to find the time. Did I have enough time to engage in leisure activities? So to some, so I did my own share of leisure. The mantra was work hard and you play hard. So we did work very, very hard. I don't know whether we played as hard as we worked, but we did work very hard. And we did everything everybody else does. So balance is a personal responsibility. That's the long and short of it. And nobody's going to hand it to you. The difference between the way we saw balance then and the way people saw balance now, people think it as a right. Yes, it's the excuse for everything: mental balance, mental health, and other kinds of things. I'm asking myself, really, how far are you going to go with that? It's a completely different era. So sometimes I looked at today's young people, and I just thank my star that I don't run any business. I don't have an executive role. I don't know how I would have coped, but I guess like everything I would have made the adjustment necessary to continue to succeed what I was doing. But it's a difference. It was always been a challenge. Want to build a career, I want to work very hard. Like I said, you've got to work very hard for a very, very long time to achieve success. But success has to be defined broader than, any the promotion, making the money or making the millions. And so it's got to be the quality of your relationships, with a wife, with a husband, you have children, whether they have the time and the attention they require, your extended family. And in the case of Nigeria, where there's so much that needs to be done, your contribution to the larger society,
Yeah.
So you've got to do everything.
Sir, I feel like you are talking directly to our blind spots in this generation, which is because we keep grumbling about no life or balance, right? But I like how you captured it. Nobody is going to hand balance to you. It is your personal decision, and you have to commit, make necessary adjustments and commitments. That resonates with me. I will grumble less. Sir, sorry to just take you back a little bit. We discussed about how you identify the X factor in terms of recruitment. But I want to know, because, I feel like in my generation, we have a lack of mentorship conversations, right? So how do we approach identifying a suitable mentor? Do we use the Bali yardstick as well?
No, Bali is for recruiting people, not for choosing your mentor. It's not a case of reverse. It's not a reverse recruitment. No, I mean, I don't know who looks for who. Whether you look for your mentor or your mentor looks for you.
I see.
Yeah, because a mentor is somebody who is that way inclined, who sees a potential person with a lot of promise, but young, exuberant, prone to emotional outbursts and so on, and basically says, "I want to help this person." So that's with that personal chemistry between. That's the desire, really, more than for me, from my point of view. The desire to mentor has to come from the mentor, rather than the mentee wanting to be mentored, because most people don't even know that they need help anyway. So I think the trick is to be in a situation, if you're lucky, where somebody just likes you for who you are, for the promise you show, and says, "I want to help this person be what he or she can be." Now, obviously, you can also make the move. You see, because one of the things you do is that you look at somebody who is ahead of you and say, "I want to be like this person. And therefore, I want to know how he got there, what he did to get there, and what lessons he learned getting there." And so I want to go close to him so I can learn from him. So you can identify your mentor and then more or less sell yourself, so to speak, to get his or her attention. So a mentor-mentee relation you can develop. Yeah. So I think this thing to this always have a role model. You either have a mentor or a role model, somebody you would like to be like. When you're a child, say, "When I grow, I want to be like." The same thing when you're at work, you start at the bottom as an analyst or whatever. Somebody's already a general manager, somebody's already a managing director, and other kind of thing. So when I get to that present age, I'd like to be like that. Obviously, we always want to do it faster than they did it. We think we can do it faster than they did it, but that's natural. And therefore, it's a case of identify people for which there's good chemistry, that likes you, that you like, and you develop some kind of professional mentee relationship. But it's very important that you do have that kind of person in your career journey. It's very, very important, very useful.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm super grateful for the insights. I'll hand over again to Odire.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for that. Please drop your questions in the chat box. We see the questions are coming, so we'll move on to that. One of the perks of being the moderator is that I get to ask my own question first. So I'll start with my own personal question. So, sir, as a CEO and a business leader, one of the major dilemmas that we are faced with is trying to balance short-term performance pressure with long-term sustainability. Jack Welch will say you are squeezing the lemon, but in 5 years' time, the business is dead. So publicly traded companies, you see on a quarterly basis, they have to release their results. So there's that short-term pressure, but at the same time, you want to be relevant in the long term, in the future. So in your role as a board chair and also as a management consultant that advise multiple boards, regarding things like this, what advice will you give to aspiring CEO or even seasoned business leader in terms of navigating this particular dilemma, and also giving the market bias for short-term result? How can business leaders prepare their business for the long term to be relevant in the long term?
Well, first of all, business, by definition, is a long-term game. It's not a short-term game. So you got to balance that. You got to pay. You got to meet your payroll. You got to meet whatever goals and so on that you set. But at the same time, you also know that the business is growing. It needs to grow, particularly in an environment like Nigeria, where so many things needs to be done, where there's huge opportunities to get things done. So no matter how good you're doing now, you know they can always do better. You need to can build something better. So for me, it's a case of a balance between short-term, meet your short-term objective, but more importantly for me is longer-term growth. I mean, I did make the example of myself, we struggled, like I said, during our time to meet budgets from time to time and other kind of thing. But one thing we never did was to shortchange the long term because of the short term. And one of the things we did, for example, training. No matter how bad things were, we trained. Whether we were living, we trained. We were always building for the long term. We always took the long-term view in anything. That's why today, the firm that started in 1978, competing with firms that had been in Nigeria 60 years previous, has become this long-term, the success that it is today. In KPMG, they have over 1,000 people. And what's our ancestors? So they got to lose of 200 people. I didn't achieve that during my time. If we did continue to invest in the future, that future that we have that's today wouldn't have happened. So it's always a play, it's always a balancing game. You got to know that, is the future at the end of the day is you got to play a future game. For me, the ultimate test of success for me is not what you did while you were there, it's what happened to the firm after you left. I mean, if you deliver superior results and blah, 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 and all that kind of thing, and then the day you leave, the company continues to struggle, and so in the process of making results, you overlook some warning signals and all that kind of thing. And shortly after you retire, things go bad. That's not a good scorecard. For me, it's always to be better. Tomorrow must always be better than yesterday. Not, look back and say, those were our glory days. Then what happened? If you're looking to the past with nostalgia, and that the past is better than the present, you miss the point as a business leader. So for me, it's all about building. It's all about investing for the future. Even if somebody else is going to take the credit. Doesn't matter.
Thank you so much. Thanks, sir, for sharing that. I just want to reiterate certain things because I think it's something that needs to be emphasized. In our economy today, we tend to put off for show. We want to show that we are doing things right now or we are doing well now. By the end of the day, if you look at 3-5 years down the line, you see that some of those companies are nowhere to be found. So you said, don't eat your future, which means don't shortchange your future. And if you also look at the performance of companies, whenever companies are not doing well, the first things that they yank off the payroll is training. So companies say, we can't train because we're not making money or we are not, we're not doing well, but not knowing that that's not a strategy that will help that company in the future. So training is important to prepare the company for the future. And then you talked about always being better. So even if you're growing 10% or 15% year on year, rather than this year you grow 50, next year you grow 100, and then 3 years down the line, you have a negative decline. So thank you for sharing that from your experience. And I think that we've all noted that. A question from the audience that I want to really take, and I think that it resonates to a large extent with what we have shared earlier. Ebuka Imebina says, you are a role model for every aspiring consultant. And I think that from your profile, we can really attest to that. So what will you describe as your best life? You have worked in consulting, you have worked as a chair of boards, member of board, you've worked in diverse capacity. So which of these will you see, or will you pick as your best experience, either in the public sector or in the private sector, or working as a consultant, or working with entrepreneurs or business executives on the board, or even as an investor? So which of these will you pick? If you were to pick one of them, which will you ascribe to as the thing that you enjoy most doing?
Well, it's good to pick one of them because they are interrelated. I mean, it's a continuum. Yeah. One builds on the other. So a lot of the things that I'm doing today is the result of the things I did in the past. I think there was one question you had asked, about all these boards. How do you do it? I didn't do it. It just happened. It happened because of what I did in the past. People ask me, oh, how come we have so many boards? I don't know. People ask me to be on the board, and if I have capacity, I join. And that's because of what I did in the past and so on. So my advice to young people, particularly those who want to end up being directors, you know what, just do what you're doing now. Do it well. Take it to the top. Be the best that you can be. And finish well. End well. If you do that, and do that over a long enough period, you'll be noticed. People will notice you. They may not talk to you and so on. And if and whenever the need arises, they will come for you. Yeah? So this idea of going for director preparation, training, this, that, I said, you're just wasting your time. What you should do, just focus on your career now and take it to the ultimate and finish on a high note and do it well. And director, particularly non-executive director, such as we are, is typically at the back end of your career anyway. So which is why I say it's all mutually reinforcing. I'm directors today, I'm chairman today because of what I did in the past, not because, not because of anything else. So in terms of what's my best life, it's difficult to say one. Just enjoy every moment. Every period of life presents its challenges and its opportunities and so on. Just make the best of it. I liked it when I was running the firm. I liked it when I was being trained. I liked it when I was training others, and since I retired, I remain relevant. I like the fact that, people still think I have something to contribute and I'm making my contribution. So there's no best life. I mean, it seems to enjoy life generally, So it's difficult for me to say one is the best life, but for me, what's important is to be relevant, to be making a contribution, to be useful to your society, to be making a difference. And more importantly, for me, most importantly, is to be building people, building the next generation. Because sometimes we forget that we are here for a limited period of time, and therefore our progress is cumulative. So it's the case of you do your bit, you hand over the baton to the next generation that you have prepared to take it to a higher level than you were able to take it. I mean, so there's no best life. As long as we have life, we continue to live, continue to contribute, we continue to be relevant.
Thank you so much, sir. So if I were to summarize what you just said, everything that you have experienced, you have learned, you have done, actually prepared you for the next phase of life or your career. So you said progress is cumulative. You keep building and you keep adding. So irrespective of the stage or what you're doing, just keep learning. In future or your next phase, what you've learned, will be relevant, in that new phase. So thank you so much for that nugget, and thank you for that learning. Osei, over to you for some more questions.
Okay, so I have a question from it says, from your experience mentoring entrepreneurs and business owners, what is the difference between those who have done well and those who have struggled? From Chuka.
Okay. Again, I've got tons of experience there. Not just mentoring. First of all, you almost can tell those who do and those who won't do well. There are some attributes that are common to those who do well eventually. Number one, they work very hard. They work very, very hard. And number two, they take a long-term view of their business and so on. And there's this thing called delayed gratification. Which many people find difficult, particularly when success comes too quickly. They want to spend it, they want to do everything. Like I said, life is in stages, so delayed gratification is very, very important. But if there's one attribute that's common to all of them is humility.
Yeah.
Particularly those who are successful, many of them lose that humility they started out with. It's like success gets in their heads, like, I've done this, I've created this, and it's me. They become me, and so on. It's not that way. So humility is very important. Accepting that you can't do it alone, that you ride on the back of others, and so on. So those are the things that stand them out. They are very humble. They take a long-term view of their business. They are very passionate about what they do. And more importantly, they are focused. One of the things I do, for example, is that all the people that I support only do one thing and one thing only. So if you do all these side hustles, I'm doing side hustle and all that kind of thing, which is the norm today, is alien to me. It's alien to the way I was brought up. Focus. Like I said, my boss says there are only 24 hours in the day. So okay, how do you deploy those 24 hours? If you take your 24 hours and put it in 3 different things, there is no way you'll be as good or as deep as somebody who puts his or her 24 hours on one thing and does it diligently. Assuming everything is equal. So focus for me is very important. And therefore, what I ask for is, whatever it is you want to do, you choose what you want to do. I didn't choose it for you. But once you've chosen it, put all your energies into it. With a single-mindedness and focus that if you do it long enough, well enough, you'll succeed. And the thing I always tell young people as well is that success takes many forms as well. Many people think success is only money. And not just money, but money that comes very quickly. Success takes many forms. I mean, so those who succeed take a long-term view, very humble, very hardworking, very passionate about their work. They're not very not distracted. They don't want to do it all, get it all at once. So that's the comment that runs through those who successful and so on. Those who don't succeed, don't necessarily. That's not the only reason why they don't succeed anyway. Because you go into a business, your market research is faulty, the market dynamics change, something changes, you underestimated the competition, you underestimated the effort it takes to translate that idea into a viable commercial proposition. Those are other factors. But for those who succeed anyway, one common thread, of course, is very humble, very hardworking, very diligent, and so on. Yeah. And they are team players as well. Team players are very important.
So thank you very much. At least I know the things to update my CV with now. Hard work and focus. Okay, sir. I believe that it's impossible for us to have a Q&A without talking about Nigeria at this time, because the state of the country is very pivotal to where we are going, or where we can go and what we can achieve. So how do you see? How do you see? Have we gone through a cycle like this in the past in your time? How do you see the state of the economy? Do we have reasons to be optimistic, or we should just pack up and japa?
I get that question all the time. First of all, we are here for a reason. We are Nigerians for a reason. If we had the choice, many of us probably won't be Nigerians. But let's say we're Nigerians for a reason. So this might be been around for a long time. It's gone through several generations of leadership and so on. All I can tell you from my own experience is that it's been a struggle building this country, building the economy and all that kind of thing. And we've all made a contribution. I've seen, missed opportunities and all that, but it is what it is. So that doesn't stop us from doing what we need to do, what we have to do. And therefore, our position is to do whatever it takes, make our own contribution to move the country forward. It's very easy to complain. Has Nigeria really worked the way we want it to work? Of course, it's never done so. A lot of the issues we deal with today have been with us for years. We talk about subsidy. We dealt with subsidy since 1982 or thereabouts. It's been on the table since 1982. At that time, we called it appropriate pricing. and 40 years on, we're still dealing with it. Foreign exchange is the same issues, same developmental issues and so on, which basically tells us that the thing that has failed this country is leadership. And when I talk about leadership, of course, when we talk about leadership, we tend to think, oh, it's the president. No, it's more than the president. It's everybody. And therefore, I think we have a responsibility, all of us, to contribute to building a better country. Current leadership is another go at it. They have the ideas. We wish them well. We hope. But beyond wishing them well, of course, that we should all roll up our sleeves and contribute. But nobody is going to build Nigeria for Nigeria. We can all japa, like you said, But if you japa, what happens to your country? And what are these people who are contemplating Japan? I said there are two categories of people who want to Japan. There are people who are of above average endowment, and there are people who are below average endowment. If you come to me and you're below average endowment and say, we want to Japan, so I probably won't discourage you. Because I know if you go out there, get a better life, better quality of life, and so on, your children will get a better chance with education and health and so on. You probably won't amount to much in that society anyway, but at least get a better life. But that's fine. But for people, anybody that's of above average endowment who wants to Japan, that person, in my view, very strongly held view, is shortchanging himself or herself. And what I always tell them is that you can go. I won't say don't go. You can go. But do me a favor. Every 5 years, look back and track your contemporaries that you left behind in Nigeria, in terms of the progress you've made and the progress you are making versus where you are. And in 8 cases out of 10, the people that you left behind have done better than you have done. You may live a better life out there. You don't have NEPA issues to deal with. You don't have issues and so on. But you are going to an already built society. You can only operate in the fringes. There are very few Nigerians that have made the headlines. There are millions of Nigerians out there. There are very few Nigerians that have made the headlines of making anything impactful in America, in the UK, or wherever they are. So at the end of the day, it depends on the kind of life you want to live. Want to live a life of impact, or you want to have an easy life. And therefore, if you want to live a life of impact, this is where it is at. This is where everything you do can have significant impact on moving society forward. And in that process, you achieve levels of success, including money, that you cannot even think of out there. So it's always a choice. Nigeria has never been. Nigeria is a country that's yet to be built. And it's going to take Nigerians to build Nigeria. It's not easy, but it is what it is.
I'm really grateful for your words, because I think what the things that have directly and indirectly come out is that life is hard, which is normal, right? So we need to be focused, hardworking, have a long-term view, and stay humble and hungry. Delayed gratification, well, that one would personally hard for me, but I'm sure the audience would be able to do delayed gratification. At this time, I will hand over to my colleague Odiri, because me, I want to buy Mercedes-Benz now. That's the problem. So
don't worry, you say you will get there. Long term. Think long term, you will get there.
I'm trying.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for those insights. You're very deep. So to the audience, if you're not taking notes, you're missing out. Please ensure that you're noting the points that have been shared. We are drawing from a very deep well, so the larger your spoon, the more you're able to draw. So I'll be picking a question from the audience by Tony. She said, have you worked with people who were average on paper, but turned out to be excellent when they got a chance to work with you? You shared earlier with us that you work with Otto Anderson, and they tend to select the best. So to a large extent, you're always working with people who are the best, who are at their best, who are very sharp and bright. But in the course of your career, have you had the opportunity to work with somebody who Not the top of the class, really, someone who is classified as average, but at the end of the day, he or she turned out to be very excellent. Hello, sir, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Was that from me?
So sorry, did you get the question?
No, you went off because of asking your question.
All right, so there's a question from the audience from Tony. You shared earlier that working with autonomous made it possible for you to work with some of the best and brightest. Also looking at your background. Now, Tony would like to know, have you worked with people who were average on paper, but turned out to be excellent on the job as a result of working with you?
I would say yes. I mean, clearly, even if you put 20 first-class people in the same room, there'll be number one, there'll be number 20. That's no. And that's what we find in autonomous. Even though we got, some people struggled. And then the other thing about autonomous in those days was that we had, first of all, it was a meritocracy, 100% meritocracy. There was no, it's your word that speaks for you and all that kind of thing. The other thing that we had was the ruthless up or out policy. So which means your career is paced. You're supposed to spend 3 years as an analyst, 3 years as a senior analyst, 5 years as a manager, giving what we call normal progression of above average performance. But not everybody does that. And what we do is that if you're not making that progression as you should, you'll be helped, you'll be counseled, you'll be coached, you'll be sent for training. So if you say struggle, we cancel you out. We outplace you in the firm. And some people will leave when they know they're struggling. They know they're going to be cancelled out. They will live on their own and so on. I can tell you, many people who went through the firm, who struggled in the firm, went out to become very, very successful outside the firm. Which means there was something there that we either didn't catch, or the environment wasn't conducive for them, or they were just in the wrong setting. Some of them became CEOs. I mean, I know at least 2 or 3 who were cancelled out of the firm, or who resigned because they had performance issues, who want to become managing directors of banks. So it's possible that you can get the best out of an average person, for sure. It's a question of the environment, the leadership, and then the support systems, that the person has to work with.
Thank you so much for that. I think that's reassuring for every one of us. So I'll be asking my last question before I hand over to C to also share his closing question. They say readers are leaders, and somebody said one time ago that if you want to hide something from a Black man, put it in a book. This generation, really, we don't read enough. And I know that, from what you've accomplished so far, you are somebody who reads. So it will be good to know what book you are currently reading, or you can share with us books you have read that you want to recommend, to every one of us listening to you today.
Well, I mean, there's no books. I'm not one for those magic bullets. Read this book, you become something. Just read far and wide, read, clearly. I mean, there are a few books that kind of say the same things you already know, put you in a point where you know it. Like, for example, there were books when we were growing up that we made everybody read. I remember in those days when In Search of Excellence came up, it was a must read for everybody, Then when Stephen Covey's 7 Habits came up, it was a must reading, for everybody and all that kind of. So there's no one book, from good to great, so many of those books. So my encouragement, just read. Read books that are topical. Read books that that expand your knowledge. Read books that challenge your thinking, and so on. I mean, in terms of the current book I'm reading, my daughter gave me a book called From Strength to Strength. That's the book I'm reading, but that's relevant for me. It's not relevant for a younger person because it's talking about making the best of your next phase of life, building on what you've done before, which is basically, again, reading the book is basically talking about the things we are doing or we should be doing, when you are in my stage of life. So reading, I will encourage. What's happened, of course, is that reading is not necessarily book-based anymore. It's about knowledge. So however you get your knowledge, whether you get your knowledge from podcasts, whether you get your knowledge from ebooks, whether you get your knowledge from joining some learned groups and so on, sharing insights and so on, just read, and just study and expand the advance of your knowledge. I mean, you have more alternative than we did. If you can't read ebooks, you can put an ebook, on your phone while you're driving, while you're in traffic. We didn't have that. We had to read a physical book. And of course, the phone is a very powerful device. It's packed with a lot of information. I think the trick about these devices is for you to be selective. There are a lot of junk out there, a lot of very distracting information out there. So you need to know exactly what to know. There has to be a purpose to your reading, what you're trying to achieve.
Thank you so much, sir, for that. Reading is about knowledge, and so seek out knowledge. Even though in this age and time, the medium of accessing knowledge is diverse, so very don't diverse. Limit yourself to just books. You can listen to podcasts, you can attend programs like this too.
Yeah.
Just to access knowledge. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Jose, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So I have a question from Bukola. Bukola wants to know the things you look out for in accepting or rejecting board appointments.
Well, first of all, the thing to look out for two things. Number one, what business are they in? What business are they in? What is the business? What is the company about? What is their reputation? Is this something that you have the skill sets, the background to make a useful contribution? If it is not, then there's no point. You don't want to be a floor member or somebody who's just making up the numbers and so on. The second to look for, who are on the board, because who are you going to join on the board? So we are joining a board. So we don't necessarily have to think alike, but I think there has to be some attributes that we all share. Some passions we all share, some belief systems that we all share. So those are things I look for. Who are on the board and what's the business about? Can I, based on my experience and based on my background, make a contribution? Would I be useful on that board? If I'm not going to be useful on that board, I'll most probably decline.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been very, very insightful. I think some of these things you've spoken about have resonated personally with me as an individual. I'd like to ask, since that's the last question, is there any general insight you'd like to share with us as a parting gift? That we haven't touched on?
I think we've talked about everything. Let me just talk about values. One of the things, if there's one thing that we gathered everything we did in understanding was the value that we all subscribe to, and there's something we held to very, very, very passionately. So you've got to decide what those values are for you. I mean, we've talked about integrity. There's nothing better than a good name, for who you are and what you do and all that kind of stuff. And people of integrity are in short supply in our environment, unfortunately, but that's the truth. The other one is stewardship. Another value which we espouse very strongly in our understanding is stewardship. And stewardship basically talks about making the world a better place than you met it. Wherever you are, make a contribution to advance the cause. We are here for a reason, and therefore let your reason be, he came, she made a contribution, and we're better for it. So people who actually will miss you when you're no longer there. The other thing that I've talked about, which is I'm talking to a group of young people, is the idea of taking a long-term view. I think when you got to take a long-term view of everything you do, just imagine that you're going to live to be 80. And therefore, you've got to pace yourself. What would you like to do at 40, 50, and so on? So not rushing. I mean, the last thing you want to do, of course, is to be at 70, be struggling with the 50-year-old, or to be at 60 to be wanting to do the things you should have done when you were 30 and so on. But just know that you're here for a long term, and therefore everything has to take time. Like certain things just take time. Time is very important, and what's important in the meantime is to take care of yourself, take care of your health, take care of your mental well-being. Look after your body. Continue to read, continue to grow, continue to develop, continue to expand the bounds of knowledge and so on, and continue to remain relevant. And then the other thing, of course, is empathy. We live in a society where a few of us are privileged. I would say anybody listening to this interview is privileged in one way or the other. If you put it in the context of a larger society, I think we must always spare a thought for those who are less endowed. And that to me is one of the things that's wrong. I find wrong with Nigeria. I think the elite, in my view, take more than their fair share. I mean, the elite take more, in every society, but in the case of the Nigerian elite, I think we take more than our fair share. And we do so not minding the fact that we're taking food out of the mouth of those who need it most, So empathy for me is very, very important. I think we need to think of those who are less privileged and to realize that those of us that are privileged and endowed, we're giving those gifts for a purpose. And that part of that purpose is to help those who are less endowed. And then, of course, the other thing is, I think people just let their work speak for them, let their results speak for them. There's too much self-promotion going on. I say that all the time. I just smile. It's better for you to just let your results, the work you do, the output, the people you impact, the difference you make, the contributions you make, describe who you are and speak for you rather than you talking about yourself or put yourself in the paper all the time and going everywhere with a crew of camera people and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see a lot of that. And and like I said, at the end of the day, stay humble. Very important. Stay humble.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. We are very grateful for taking out time from your busy schedule to give us your life hacks and wisdom and guidance. We'll ensure that we use these ones, this life hacks that you've given us respectively. At this time, I would hand over to Chuka, the Vice President of the CFA Nigerian Institution, to do the vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, C. And thanks, Odiri, for moderating this session. And more importantly, I would like to thank Mr. Adedotun Sulaiman, MFR, for sharing his nuggets. To be precise, I've taken 5 pages of notes, so I'm really fortunate to be here. And one of the key things I would like to highlight are the values. Sorry. Yeah, one of the key things I would like to highlight are the key values, that Adedotun used in actually attracting talent and grooming talent. So that is the BALI, which is the brains, the ambition, leadership, as well as integrity. And I'm also from a consulting background, PwC as well. So those values are shared across, many of these sustainable businesses. The other thing I would want to thank our speaker for is is actually the fact that there are very few mentors in this current environment, big, let it be done overnight. And it's basically made many of the youths to be disillusioned. So we have a very rare opportunity to talk to an overachiever. And that overachiever has stayed humble. So with success, it's very difficult for people to remain humble. And you've actually led by example. So I'm very fortunate, to have participated in this session. At this point, I would like to thank you, and also thank those that made this happen. So those are the society office that put this event together. I'd also like to give a vote of thanks to the members as well, and those that have participated in this event. Now, for the members, I just want to highlight the fact that this session also adds to your professional learning and continuous learning. So you get 1.5 PL points, so you can claim it as well. I would also encourage you to stay tuned to the other events that we have. So the events that we have can be seen on our social media platform, LinkedIn, Instagram, and also on our website. So thank you so much. Stay tuned for the next edition.
Thank you very much. It's a wrap.
If you've made a decision to aim for a long-term and successful finance career, taking the Chartered Financial Analyst CFA exam and studying the curriculum is an excellent way to ensure you have a strong knowledge base and top-notch skills. Are you ready to take the bold step to invest in yourself? CFA Society Nigeria is at your disposal, promoting the highest standards of investment practice in Nigeria. As an affiliate of CFA Institute, CFA Society Nigeria seeks to promote the highest standards of investment practice in Nigeria and to provide a vibrant community in which its members and other key players in the investment industry can interact and grow. When you have the CFA charter, you're globally recognized. Take advantage today by writing the CFA exam and joining us at CFA Society Nigeria. For more information, visit us at cfasocietyn.org. CFA Society Nigeria, making finance a force for good.